The son of Vlad the Impaler narrates the background around the legendary persona known as Dracula, and how the myths tell of a monster in an introductory montage. In an attempt to disprove the mythology, Vlad the Impaler's son narrates the circumstances that led to the creation of Dracula. The Sultan of Turkey tried to acquire and train youngsters in the Middle Ages in order to convert them into perfect soldiers with no moral or ethical commitments. One such youngster was Vlad the Impaler, who earned the moniker, the Impaler, by using wooden stakes to exhibit those he killed as a tactic of psychological warfare. Eventually, Vlad was able to evade his military duty and was appointed Prince of Transylvania, a tribute area to the Turkish Empire. While on a reconnaissance expedition in the woods, Vlad and his squad come across a Turkish helmet and surmise that a Turkish scouting unit has penetrated Transylvania territory. In their pursuit of the party, Vlad and his men explore a cave in the mountains and meet an ancient sorcerer and master vampire, who drives them out of his lair. The Turkish group arrives unexpectedly the next day, while Vlad and his peasants celebrate Easter. Anticipating that they have come for the tribute, Vlad offers silver money to the party, but the envoy requests that 1,000 lads be delivered over for service in the Turkish army. Vlad declines the request, but lacks an effective armed force to persuade the Turks to leave Transylvania peacefully. Following a failed diplomatic attempt with the Turkish Sultan, Vlad engages in skirmishes with a Turkish team that arrives to abduct his son for duty in the Turkish army. Recognizing that he will require greater power to defend his realm and people, Vlad seeks out the vampire's cave and informs the vampire that he requires the vampire's power. After hearing his narrative and warning him about the dangers, the vampire offers Vlad some of his blood, which imbues Vlad with nighttime powers. The vampire explains that this power will last 3 days, during which Vlad will be tempted to drink human blood, but if he can resist the need for the entire 3 days, he will be restored to his human form. When Vlad returns from the cave, he notices a Turkish siege of Castle Dracula and takes on the besieging force alone, killing them all. Vlad, determined to protect his people at any cost, orders the party to retreat to a mountain monastery whose terrain will thwart any Turkish attempt to seize the facility. The Transylvanian party is ambushed by Turkish forces on the second night, and Vlad and his men combat them. Despite winning the battle, Vlad's abilities continue to attract the notice of his closest counselors. The next day, when Vlad attempts to rally his people ahead of the conflict, his use of demonic powers is revealed, and the citizens of the monastery turn on Vlad. Angry at this perceived treachery, Vlad chastises his people before departing. A strong Turkish force marches on the monastery that night. The land is defended by bats, but the impending Turkish army turns out to be a decoy force used to let a handful of Turks to infiltrate the monastery and massacre the citizens within. Myrina's attempt to save her son from the Turks fails, and she dies as a result. Angry by his wife's death, Vlad embraces the evil within himself and honors Myrina's final desire to drink her blood before returning to the monastery. When Vlad finds a few survivors, he offers them the chance for vengeance and feeds them his blood to drink. When Vlad and his little band of vampires arrive at the main Turkish army camp, the Sultan and his warriors are preparing for a huge invasion of Europe. The two forces clash, but Vlad's vampires are much superior to the Turkish soldiers, and the combat degenerates into a slaughter. While the vampires exact retribution on the Turkish army, Vlad seeks out the Sultan, who has kidnapped his son. Knowing the vampire's weakness for silver, the Sultan has carpeted the flooring of his tent with silver coins and is fighting Vlad with a silver sword. The Sultan's attempt to assassinate Vlad ultimately fails, and Vlad and his son exit from the Sultan's tent, surrounded by the other vampires Vlad brought with him. Vlad's vampires want the child's blood, but they are thwarted by the sudden appearance of a monk, who keeps the vampires at bay with a Christian cross. After comforting his son, Vlad orders the monk to transport him away, and then uses his power to clear the cloud cover. The vampires die because they are unable to survive the effects of direct sun contact in the absence of clouds. Following the battle, Vlad is assumed killed and the Turkish army vanquished, therefore protecting Europe from invasion and annexation. Vlad's son is crowned as the next prince of Transylvania, and the name Dracula is passed down as a legend to future generations. Renfield finds Vlad in a near-death situation and revives him, after which he remains hidden from the public sight. In the current day, a woman who bears a striking resemblance to Myrina is approached by a guy who compliments her flowers and recites her favorite poem, presumably by chance. The man introduces himself as Vlad, and the woman as Mina, and the two leave together. The master vampire, who has not aged, watches the two pass by and ends the film with the words, "Let the games begin."